is going on, good people of the internet? This is our brand new podcast, Blerd Grounds, where we, as African American nerds, as black nerds, whatever we want to go by Blerds, because it's called Blerd Grounds, we are sitting here talking about everything that we care about in terms of nerd culture. My name is James Portis. I am the editor-in-chief of oncomicsground.com. With me are members of my team, my writing staff, like people I trust to come around here and talk about things that we care about within the black community. So, I don't have my normal setup. Like, this is a brand new setup here. So, above me, we have Dr. Aaron Jones, reviewer of such comics as Black Panther, Bitterroot, and once he reviewed Flash. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing good. Glad to be here. Stocks and how.
All right. And below me, we have the only other person I can talk to about Power Rangers shit on the daily with one of our amazing editors and our reviewer of our Power Rangers comics, Jasmine. How are you doing this evening?
I am awake and I am here. Hello.
All right. And then below her, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the man who is covering not only Green Lantern, but Avengers, one of the premier titles from Marvel currently that is being written by Jason Aaron, the man who is covering Miles Morales' Spider-Man, and is killing it with his opinions and pieces that he writes. Marcus Freeman, how are you doing this evening?
What up, internets? I'm doing cool. You know, just let's prepare to get ignorant.
All right. Please check us out when you have time on Twitter at Blerd Grounds. We are trying to grow a community of people to talk about the issues that we care about. But that is all we are going to do. This is just the preview episode. You can follow us on Twitter for the website on Comics Ground at On Comics Ground on Twitter and Instagram, and you can check out all of these amazing opinion pieces and reviews that we do on oncomicsground.com. So we're gonna get into it. So there's no agenda. There is no crazy list of bullet points that we're gonna go through. This is just our episode talking about one of the things that sort of sparked a big movement in black nerd culture, that opened a lot of doors, that created Wakanda Con of all freaking things. It's a thing. There was people trying to fly to Wakanda to in Africa when this movie was coming out. Also, I forgot, before we get into this topic, our other co-host, Travis Tucker, also my co-host on Panel to Panel, our Saturday show, was not able to make it this evening, but he will be here for our first episode. This is just our preview episode, so please stay tuned, and you'll hear from him for our first episode. But back to what I was saying. Yes, this movie, Black Panther, from Marvel Studios, was the Marvel property created by Stan Lee in the 60s? Yeah, question mark. 60s, 70s. I think it's 66, 76.
1966.
Thank you. I was right the first time. Woo! Okay, sorry, I'm tired. It's been a long day. I've been up since 5:30, and I am still going with Diet Coke in hand.
Oh no! Oh baby, no!
Oh, hey, aspartame will save your life, but no.
I'll say something.
But no, Stan Lee created this character because he thought that people like us needed a character to look up to. And back then it didn't make the impact that he wanted, but before he passed away, God rest his soul, he got to see the impact that this movie had. He got to see it nominated for Oscars. He got to see it be one of Marvel's most well-grossing films up until the release of Avengers Endgame. And it was mind-blowing to see throughout the entire cosmos that the African Americans and Africans themselves going to see this movie as it is. All over the world, people were going to see this movie. Like, celebrities were taking underprivileged youth to go see this movie as it came out. This thing has blown the doors off the hinges, and we are going to talk about some of our thoughts about it. So, I want to go around the table and see who, other than basic, not knowledge, how versed were y'all in Black Panther before before Civil War? Like other than a piece of art here and there, what did you know about King T'Challa? Anybody can go in.
For me, I knew a little bit about him from reading because I started like really getting back into comics again, maybe around 2005. So that's when the actual Civil War miniseries was coming out. And I remember there was a run on Fantastic Four, I think, when Storm and
Yes.
Black Panther were part of
I
the
remember
Fantastic
that.
Four.
Yep.
And it wasn't, I remember it not being particularly well written, but it was just cool to see him in it. Um, and then from there, I remember the infamous Secret Invasion tie-in of Black Panther, where T'Challa and the people of Wakanda just single-handedly just stopped the Skrulls from invading Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
One of like the dopest comic issues I've ever read. There was that. And then there was also the Ultimate Avengers movie, the second one that had Black Panther in it. So that was pretty much my knowledge of Black Panther until Civil War, and then the movie came out and everything.
All right, Jasmine, you are the one like that comes from a different side of Black nerd culture. But what did you
Yeah.
know? What did you know about Black Panther before the movie came out?
So my introduction to comics were always through cartoons, and I actually knew of Black Panther before the Earth's Mightiest Heroes Avengers came out. The cartoon came out, although he was a part of that, like a low key part. He was kind of a character who came in and out because I guess he had a kingdom to run, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so I knew of him before that because I can't remember exactly when it was, but I had been kind of dabbling into Avengers actually about that time when 2005 the Civil War bit was coming out, because I thought that was really fascinating. I liked the idea of I guess just a massive kind of crossover. So I'd heard of him about then. I knew of him, but I didn't really know a lot until the movies came out. And much.
Okay.
Not as much as I'd like. I did know that he and Storm were married. I did know that he was King of Wakanda, and I did know his powers. And I think that I had picked up a couple of comics when I was younger, but I don't remember reading them at all.
Okay. No problem. No problem.
I'm clueless here.
Oh, it's cool. It's cool. One of the things that we are going to stress as we go into to this podcast is that we are trying to not only educate ourselves on different facets of history, whether it be comics, video games, anything that we talk about. That it doesn't matter if you are a casual. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. We are here to help you, bring you into the fold. That way, you know more. So now, the most educated man in the room, Mr. Dr. Jones. That's like the Mr. Doctor. Like you might be the only person that might be close to my amount of knowledge about T'Challa. So why don't you tell people about how much you know?
I would say to your earlier question about like when did you first like hear about get introduced to him. I would say it's probably been a long time, but just because I think like I would always get like random books, and he would come like in and out of books, or it's kind of the big crossover stuff, like your Secret War stuff, and a longtime member of the Avengers. And I was the kind of comic book geek that had like the secret origins in DC, or the stuff that would show you background and profiles of things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I had this one book that was about the history of the Avengers, right? And I think the like I had already kind of known about Black Panther, like I had seen him in a couple books, but not known a lot about him. And then there was a profile of him in one of these books, and the fact that he had joined the Avengers very early on. So like I think it was, um, I would say like they hadn't had even reached 10 members yet or something like that, and he came in for an issue and he joined the team. I think that was when like Avengers was in like their teens. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'll have to double check later. But like maybe like issue like 13 or 14 or 16 or something like that, and Black Panther had joined the Avengers that early. But he wasn't someone who was going to be there all the time because, like Jasmine said, that he has a kingdom to run, and so when the time came and when his expertise was needed, he would jump in. And he was like that very forthright, strong, intelligent person that everybody respected, and someone that you just did not mess with. And then kind of keying into his early appearances and stuff like that. And even then, like, it's just like, who is this guy? He's so powerful. He's so intelligent, and he's black too. So like, those are things that really helped me to identify with T'Challa. And then as time went on, and then the seeing him on the Fantastic Four cartoon, and like the old one.
The really old
Yeah, I
one.
know which one you're talking about. I've seen all the cartoons. You don't understand.
Right. So
That's my
like way,
domain.
way, way back when, and then picking up comics and books, and then when I heard the movie, like, y'all don't even know or understand how excited I was, because I knew that. Oh, and I didn't even mention like the Illuminati stuff. Like, like I've been a fan paying attention to T'Challa for a while, but like the movie like took me another level. So yeah.
Right.
And I'll share a pic later of like some things that I have with me right here, because not all my comic books are here with me in Santa Cruz. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make mine quick because I don't want to like take too much time, that we can get into the movie and whatnot. Growing up, I told a story on the panel a couple times where the first comic I ever read was, and we'll have to talk about this comic one day. Batman the Cult. Like this premise always makes people freak out. It was a book where a Catholic priest who had the power of immortality, who was a who was a Native American, had drugged Batman and made him think that an old black man was a pimp from like a blaxploitation comic or like a TV show, like in the frilly hat and all that good shit, and literally made him like think that he was like hurting hookers and stuff, and made him kill the black man. It was one of those comics that like freaked me out, and it was like super edgy and whatnot, and it just blew my mind. Like literally, it was Batman versus homeless people. It was the weirdest freaking thing ever. And when after that, like my love of comics began, and when I walked into my dad's house like one day, and he saw that I was reading a Batman comic, he like I don't even know how my father found a comic book store. I don't know how he did it, because he was one of those old school like plant type workers. Like went to Chrysler, came home, passed out, and did the same thing the next day. And but somehow he found a comic book shop. Came home with a Black Lightning #2.
Ooh.
He came home with a Captain America and Falcon. I forget what issue it was. And he came home with a random issue of Christopher Priest's Black Panther. And from then, my world exploded. And like knowing that there were other superheroes that looked like me blew me away. And like, and keep in mind, I was like 4 or 5, and like because my mom worked at a juvenile detention center, and she was able to get books and bring them home to me. She saw Batman, she didn't know, she just threw it to me, and then I see Batman killing black folks and homeless people, and I'm like, oh my god. But no, like actually like reading books about characters that look like me like was just groundbreaking. And that's why when Black Lightning came out, I was like, whoa. And like when Black Panther the movie was announced, even when he was in Civil War, I was just aghast. But like, holy crap, this character that I loved as a child is now on the big screen. And the craziest part about it, if I'll have to show you a picture of him later. Oh, like guys, like Chadwick Boseman looks like my older brother. Like it freaks me the hell out, and it makes me like, holy crap, Timmy's on TV. Like it freaks me out every time. Like it's insane. So it's so crazy to see this character be like there for a new generation. Like it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but those commercials where like they actually went out of their way to get little black kids for the Hasbro commercials to play with the Black Panther toys, that shit mattered. So it blows me away to see where we've gone, and I've been reading comics ever since and reading about Black Panther. Like, I haven't been the biggest supporter of Space Wakandans recently. I will confess. Now, granted, Andrea Sorrentino's artwork has helped. The recent issues with Jen Bartel's artwork weren't as good. I will admit that. I admit that her covers are better than her interiors, but it's I have been reading Black Panther for a long time. I have suffered through some hard times. Like Marcus talked about the Fantastic Four run, where Reed and Sue were having marital problems during the Civil War, so they call T'Challa and Storm to be part of the team while they're in counseling. That was a fun time. It was a very strange time in comics. But from there, we'll have more episodes talking about the weird adventures of characters in the Marvel universe or in the DC universe, because that's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, that's
DC's where I started.
Worms.
Like, randomly how Vixen had a solo comic issue, like a one-shot come out for a random Black event that DC helped fund, but then never saw it again a couple years ago. Yeah, I'll tell you about that later. But no, so Civil War comes out. We see Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. We see the death of King T'Chaka. And the first issue comes up that a lot of people have contention with, a lot of people who have issues with, like, the diversity in the Marvel Universe, is how is T'Chaka King of Wakanda, but his son, the Black Panther? And I initially had wrote this off as, like, oh, he was chosen to be the Black Panther, like, go through the ceremonial training but not be king, because the fact that his father is old. He can still be the governing body, but he ain't gonna be beating nobody up whether he has the flower or not. He only gets so much to do there. So
that's what I assumed.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed.
And the fact that a lot of us are able to act under the power of, like, assumption there shows that,
like, that doesn't seem to be like a big leap to make.
So there was that, and
That's
then there's that really powerful line at the end of the movie where T'Challa learns the truth about Zemo, and Zemo whips out the gun after playing the voicemail, and T'Challa stops him with the vibranium glove and goes, "The dead aren't through with you yet." That made such a powerful statement that Ta-Nehisi Coates stole it for the first arc of his Black Panther run. And Aaron, you know it's true. But
yeah.
But no, it's like we go a little bit longer and we finally see that first trailer for Black Panther. Like, I even rewatched it before we started the show today, where you got Run the Jewels in the background, and like they're showing us all this stuff, and it blows my mind to see how much they revealed in that first trailer that, like, no one even realized. Like, Shuri and Nakia and their battle outfits and whatnot, we didn't even understand. Like, it's insane. But no, at this time we go into the movie. And there's all this stuff blowing up about the movie and whatnot. Like, Kendrick Lamar and all these people are going to do the soundtrack. Like, people are going...
That soundtrack was amazing.
It really is. It really is.
Now,
slaps.
Here's a subject of discussion. How do you think that soundtrack influenced the movie? Because he not only helped with the soundtrack, he helped with, like, the actual, like, composition of the songs in the movie that weren't just on the soundtrack.
Well, I think in two ways, there was a big aspect of the soundtrack in connection to the movie. Number one, just having a big time artist like Kendrick Lamar.
I was about to say, are we talking about Lamar specifically?
Or just in general, like just the sounds, Lamar,
the sound. Okay.
like everything.
Yeah, him being involved.
That man won a Pulitzer, so.
Right. Him being involved and him bringing in, like, some African artists onto it well, and then other high profile artists like Vince Staples and Travis Scott onto it. It gave that movie even more of a stamp of approval for people who may not have been familiar with the comics. But on the other hand, there was some controversy because people felt they should have just used traditional African artists throughout that soundtrack. And I think when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. As you see, Beyonce's kind of facing the same thing with the Lion King soundtrack she just put out.
I feel like
Don't
that's a
come at me
little.
though, Beehive. This is just me speaking from what
And I
I've
was just
read.
saying,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a little. I feel like that's a little bit different though, because Black Panther, the movie, very specifically blended American culture and African culture,
Right, right, right.
in ways that I actually really highly respected. And so I think that both elements were there, and I think that reflected in the music. I think that was a really smart choice.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So
But at the same
that's just my
time,
personal opinion.
right. From my perspective and your perspective, but at the same time, someone that may have been that's African and may have came to America, or someone that's just in Africa, them feeling that way, I completely understand it, and it kind of makes you think to their point of view as well.
Yeah, it does.
And when you think about African music now today, even there's a lot of mixture of kind of African American cultural like rap and Afro beats and like that's a thing, and it just made sense for there to be that combination because the fact that Black Panther he went to school in America, like he is educated in the United States, and it starts in the United States, and it's this like I feel like they knew that this film was going to be something. Like there was kind of like an undercut, like they kind of didn't know. It's that white supremacist kind of idea of black or people of color movies don't sell. So like they were going out on a limb, but at the same time they knew that they had to kind of put everything into this in order for it to grasp the audience that it needed to, and I feel like it did, and I feel like it, the way it starts, the way that they utilize popular music, the way that they utilize even like if you sit down with it, like the Kendrick Lamar soundtrack and the actual soundtrack of the movie, they're both dope.
They are.
Like if you sit down and listen to both of them, they're both dope actually. You think about some of the moments, like the really big moments in the movie, like those are it's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Like the Dora Milaje music. Please, let's don't get me started.
All right, there is that. So the movie starts, and there's the entire. Now I know a lot of people like are very like show don't tell about movies in a lot of ways, but that giant rundown with the vibranium sand of everything that Black Panther is about that you didn't get to see in Civil War, like that crash course was so well done, because I pulled it up on Netflix before the show and I rewatched that again specifically to talk about the point of that gave any person who had never heard of this man's name until Civil War, or even just before Black Panther, like the trailer, they came in and were able to understand everything about this character in a small bite-sized bit. And I think that actually goes to this movie's credit in a lot of ways. I think Ryan Coogler, the director, was very smart to do that. Like, am I wrong in saying that?
No, you're 100% right.
Genius.
Yeah.
And it didn't last a long time. You didn't feel like you were being lectured to. You were given kind of the main points. It hit hard. It hit quick. You have the beautiful sequence, the way like the animation goes with the sand, like you said, and then it rolls into me in Oakland.
Yeah.
And
so yeah,
I don't know if Jasmine, go ahead and talk about this before I get into my next thing.
So I'm sorry. Say that again.
Go do you have anything to talk about the intro before I get into my next?
Oh no. The funny thing about this is that like I'm kind of like a writer in the creative writing sense, so I have stuff to say about things like the story, and how like that like story structure wise the movie was. But aside from that, I'm letting you guys take the lead on this one.
Okay. Well, why don't we just crack open the biggest like point of contention that I have, and that has had reverberations throughout the Marvel universe as a whole as of recently, which is Oakland and Killmonger. We have this like we're just gonna dive straight on into this. Is this like I'm not even gonna like beat around the bush, because I got two other ones that I want to talk about too. I got three, because I know a lot of people will say that Killmonger is probably one of the best Marvel cinematic villains that we have gotten. And to their credit, I agree. He is one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe villains. However, I don't know if it was right to trade off the original origin of Eric for what we have here just to get that cultural impact. Now, I appreciate and I love the cultural impact. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if the trade-off was worth it, because for those who don't know, Eric Killmonger was raised in Wakanda. He was raised there, and then after his family was disgraced, he was exiled, and he was for a long time. He was trained by Claw. He was raised by other Wakandans that were under the servitude of Claw until he became strong enough that he left and became educated in America, and then returned to Wakanda, and over multiple years and multiple attempts tried to overthrow T'Challa. He was never related to T'Challa. He was just this hardened man who had been torn down by the belief system that had failed him in Wakanda, that he wanted revenge and saw T'Challa as not a fit king. And I'm torn still on if the trade-off of now we have the problem of the current comic book landscape, where not only we have the recent comic book by Brian Edward Hill where they tried to shove all of this stuff about Killmonger to a small amount of time. It was reviewed by Aaron recently. And now we have the solicitation for October's issue of Black Panther, where the ghost of Killmonger is coming back, and he looks like Michael B. Jordan. And I don't know how I feel about this.
To me, it was a non-issue. Well, number one, it's particularly important to me because I'm born and raised from the Bay Area. Okay. So to see Oakland portrayed on the big screen, we don't see that very often. You know, these movies, especially these action superhero movies, they either take place in New York or they take place in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So to see Oakland not only in the movie but put in a actual positive light, with heroes come, like, speaking to the fast forwarding to the end. I know we're not talking about the end yet, but fast forwarding to the end with, you know, the king of a powerful country in Africa talking to some little children from Oakland and giving them hope. Like, that was very, very important to me. Hearing Bay Area or Northern California artists like Mozzie playing in the background was very, very important to me. And plus, Ryan Coogler is from Oakland. And Ryan Coogler puts on for Oakland in every single movie he does. You know, him and Michael B. Jordan worked together on Fruitville Station. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend to everyone, you know, that's listening to check that movie out. It's a very powerful performance. It's one of those movies that you don't need to watch again because it's just so hard to watch. So, you know, Michael B. Jordan, even if you even listen to the movie, he's really actively trying to sound like someone from Oakland. Like, he really got into the role of Killmonger being from Oakland. So I think all those liberties, not only was it for the culture, but it was authentic because the director is from Oakland. And people from Oakland, if you ever met someone from Oakland, they're always going to put on from Oakland, no matter where they're at.
Always.
All right.
I'm not from Oakland, but I know many people from there, and always.
That's true.
All right.
I think there's also this idea that not only from the personal perspective of Coogler being from Oakland and wanting that to be a central point to that character, I think he was also kind of making an attempt to connect the kind of the theme and the idea to, you know, Oakland is also the home of the Black Panthers. So
true.
The Black Panther Party for self-defense.
You are right.
And the idea that they were actually the character Black Panther and the Black Panthers separate. And
yeah, there is literally no relation. Like, they even
Yeah.
tried to have him, like, Stan change it in the comic books. Like, they called him like the Black Tiger for like a month, and everyone hated it. And then they changed it back because it was causing so much controversy.
Right. So they were both independently of themselves created in 1966, one in Oakland and one in New York. And so like this kindred kind of spirit of the connection of the two, I think is what was trying to be captured as well. Even when you think about some of the imagery where T'Challa is sitting on that chair, and you kind of juxtapose that with a picture of Huey Newton, knowing his place in the Black Panther Party. Like, I think that's where kind of some of it comes from, and I think some of it is also kind of just condensing to make it fit in the movie in the event that maybe this is the only movie.
That's true. Like, that does go into a lot of things that, like, with the movie, with like one of Black Panther's longest running villains being killed. It's and also
I didn't like that. That was frustrating.
I didn't either. I didn't like it either.
I was talking about I'm talking about Claw, not Eric. I'm talking about Claw.
No, I'm with you. I agree.
You gotta specify. You gotta specify that for me.
Okay, I'm talking about Claw.
The fact that both of them die is
Eric
a problem.
is supposed to die, but Claw is supposed to be one of his longest running villains, who even turns himself into a cyborg, and then Michael B. Jordan even just goes pop, and we're done. And it definitely gives us that feel similar to Aquaman recently, where you don't know if you're getting another one.
The kitchen sink.
They definitely they threw the
funniest part on a previous version of Panel to Panel, one of the old castmates just said they threw the gumbo pot at it. They just threw the whole dang pot, and like
they really did.
There's this thing of they wanted to make sure that African Americans had that one shot, and they were gonna make it count. So I definitely see what you're saying about Oakland. I just I definitely feel that a little more. I've been doing a lot more research about this, especially with reading the current Killmonger run. It's just. I remember when the book was announced, everyone's like, "You want to talk about Oakland?" Like, they were asking him on Twitter, asking Brian O'Hill if they were talking about Oakland, and I'm like, I even tweeted at him myself. I was like, "Are you gonna use this as an opportunity to educate African Americans about who Killmonger really is?" And he said yes, and I was like, "Thank you." Like, he didn't do a lot, but I appreciated the work done. At least in the first few issues of he was this amazing college student similar to T'Challa. He could have went anywhere with his career, but he chose to get revenge for his parents being killed by Claw.
That was cool.
So,
and I think with regards to Claw, I think it's also a big issue that the MCU has faced from a lot of its movies. They always end up killing the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, because I'm about to get right early on you.
Go for it.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, I on the one hand, I really, really understand the frustration of having a comic book character that you really love and respect being mutilated horrifically by the movies. 100%, I get that. On the other hand, Killmonger was one of the most not complicated, but fleshed out, rich antagonists of anything I've ever seen or read. And that was highly appreciated. And out of respect for that, I understand, I suppose, in the comics that he dies, and that is a very big, impactful thing. And honestly, his death in the movie was poignant and good, and the way that it happened was good.
100%.
I don't like that it happened. I don't like that it happened at all, because I feel like his sort of character is the type that could be brought back from that, and either in a redemption kind of way, or in an ongoing like your Claw kind of way. I kind of feel like that was a missed opportunity, and I do remember being frustrated watching that and being like, that is not the ending that I feel like he deserved, especially from like I said, he is rich as a character. Yes. There's a lot that they packed into that with very few scenes interspersed throughout the movie. That the movie almost felt like it was about him more than it was about T'Challa. Yeah. So
right. People came out of that movie bigger fans of Killmonger than they were of T'Challa.
Yeah, and I think a good chunk of that has to do with the fact he was our window, or he was our representation, America's representation, which is another reason why I think that was such a brilliant blend of cultures, because it was very obviously a movie about the mother country, but also the point of view of African Americans having been ripped from that and then having to grow up in a culture as we have that is so brutally cut off, and we don't feel like we belong back there, regardless of and listen, because that is a huge topic that I feel like we could talk about for ages and ages and ages. But in terms of representation from our side of it, I actually thought that he was a very brilliantly, quietly written character that I really appreciated. And I think that's why a lot of us came out of that movie liking him a lot, because he was our representation. He was our window into that.
Okay.
And I'm usually not the devil's advocate for, because I am kind of a traditionalist sometimes. Like I want to see my characters on screen, not just anybody's version of a character. But the fundamentals of a character, as long as you can maintain those fundamentals of what this character is supposed to be about, like I'm down for
I
it.
agree.
If you
That's
tweak
why
if you tweak a couple of things.
That's why
So
at the end of the day, I appreciate what was done with Killmonger. I think it goes in the same vein of what's happened to Shuri recently. With funny enough, the two characters that have gotten miniseries and like changed them a little bit in the comic books, the two characters, like they're both the characters that have been so polarizing in what has become of them in the comic book recently because of the movie. With Shuri being seen as not only younger than what she is, because she's supposed to be like almost pushing 30, if not late 20s in the comics, because once T'Challa had been disgraced and thought dead, she became the Black Panther for a long period of time in the Reginald Hudlin run. And then when Atlantis invaded Wakanda, and then when Thanos invaded Wakanda, she was the Black Panther that was there defending the nation. While T'Challa was acting as Black Panther from the shadows, she was the queen that defended the nation, and she died fighting for her country. So to see her be dropped down to just like the young sort of teenage person, but still having done all this stuff somehow, like it becomes very polarizing when, especially with Marvel and their sliding time scale for their comic books, they just say, "Oh, when did that thing happen? Like, when did Civil War happen? A couple of years ago." Like,
yeah,
no,
it happened yesterday.
It happened yesterday. It happened like and it's just it becomes very polarizing for people like to get involved and whatnot. So not only do I appreciate what happened with Eric, I worry about people's like interpretation, especially like coming to the comics and they go, "That's not Killmonger," and they're gonna be really confused, or "That's not Shuri." But granted, they kind of like corrected that with the miniseries, but it's something that worries me, if that makes sense.
I feel like that's a point of contention too, because like honestly, like there's a very big debate about whether comics should be influenced by the movies and whether like movies should be faithful to the comics and whether they should be completely separate and have that be okay. Because honestly, there's gotta be a line drawn somewhere. You can't keep flip-flopping like this because people are gonna be really, really confused. And that's something that's always really frustrated me, actually, because like I said, I kind of live in film, in comics and film and stuff like that, and TV, and so like that's my domain, and so I keep trying to get into comics, and it's very hard because these aren't the characters that I know. It's the same thing, just on the other side of it.
Right. My point of contention with Killmonger was more so that I think the wrong people were inspired by him, and then people took the wrong inspiration from him.
We had to listen to everybody and their mama calling white people colonizers.
Right. And it was just like people forgot that he was a homicidal psychopath.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Who just happened to be pretty educated.
Killmonger is right. We should go and take over, and we should do to them what they did to us. And I'm like
he was very clearly an antagonist.
I'm like, do you really think this is what we should do? Like
that reminds me of a Patrice O'Neal, God rest his soul. Before he passed, he did a comedy special around the time Obama got elected, where he said, "Oh yeah, like I thought we was gonna get white slaves and shit. Like I thought it was gonna be changed, but like you can't do that. You can't like
that's not how this works.
You really have to acknowledge how just not very smart most people are and how they'll take that sort of thing and run with it. Because
Right,
He said he was gonna kill babies. He said
Yeah,
we gotta
like-
kill their babies. Like I was
like Killmonger
what?
was a very like messed up figure. He had seen his people suffer and like gone through the worst of things, and he wanted to make the people who made his people suffer. And
Exactly.
granted, that makes for a very powerful villain, but it's not who we should be looking up to.
He
What-
was
Right,
a sympathetic villain, but he was still very clearly an antagonist. And I think that they did a good job with that. It's just that people can't reconcile the fact that you can be in pain and you can be wronged and you can be on the other side of being oppressed and still be not a good person.
exactly. And hurt people, and that's what he was, a hurt person. And but
Exactly.
he had the quote unquote hoteps out in full force, and it was just crazy. And then it just kind of showed me that a lot of people, they don't want, revolution. They don't want equality or equity or what have you. They just want to replace the oppressors and be the oppressors themselves.
Yeah, that's not how this works. That's not we should be working towards equality.
Yeah, and they missed the whole point of the movie, which was the women were right. Nakia,
That's the point of every movie.
Nakia's plan for Wakanda was the best plan, and her plan was better than T'Challa's. Her plan was better than Killmonger's. Her plan was, you know what, we should be ready for war, but let's not try to start war.
Marcus,
I was very, very frustrated that we didn't get a whole lot more of Nakia. Okay, like
see, I love how you worked in my transition so perfectly.
Oh,
you know, I had to lay that up for. I had to throw that alley for you.
Yes. Okay. So Miss Nakia Shaku, this woman is so ass backwards from her original interpretation. So when and Aaron knows what I'm talking about because he played Christopher Priest. He knows because in the original Christopher Priest run in the 90s, Nakia, this is gonna blow your mind, folks. This is gonna blow your mind. Nakia was a member of the Dora Milaje. And she wasn't trying to work towards equality. She wasn't trying to work to benefit anybody. She was in love with T'Challa. And she got jealous of a woman he was dating in America.
Oh, no.
During a wartime event in Africa, she pushed the woman out of a plane and made T'Challa think she was dead. And T'Challa saw that she was lying, and she was exiled from the Wakanda and from the Dora Milaje until she was found by Killmonger and some other villains, and that's when she became a villain herself until her untimely death.
What?
Yeah. So take that. And then you have what Ryan Coogler did with this character, where she became this voice for equality and voice for change, and I love it. But then I'm just sitting here like, wait, what's your name, Nakia? Like, hey, I'm googling while I'm in the theater. Like, yeah, you're supposed to be a hoe. What happened?
You can still be a hoe for equality, okay?
Hey, you are absolutely correct.
True enough.
We are sex positive, but like it's
so yeah, like I'm somewhat in agreement here, just because I think that to the point we made earlier about confusion, that when people revisit things in the comics and they're like, oh, wait a minute, but Nakia is great. And just recently in this book, Wakanda
Space
Forever. No, not Space Wakandans. But Wakanda Forever. There were the 3 one-shots that were connected.
What is it, Dora Milaje, like with the X-Men, Dora Milaje with Spider-Man?
Yeah, and so one of the main villains was Nakia, and she was kind of cracked out, and she was still kind of obsessive over T'Challa and everything, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but doesn't end well. So. If someone were to pick up those books, because again, it's connecting all these pieces, and people might be coming to it from the movies, they're gonna be like, "What? Nakia is not well. What's up?"
That just sounds like she's gonna be the villain in Black Panther 2.
That was what I was thinking. Was like
that's just what that's telling me.
Either that possibly, or some stuff that happens in Infinity War and Endgame that sets up the other villain of Black Panther.
See, to me, I see it as an example of an actress of her stature demanding more of a role than just being
I was about
a
to say, I hope so.
right, being more than just a one-dimensional character.
That's fair.
Right.
And I
That's
feel
it.
like she could have been somebody else, like a new character.
You
Or
could
I
have
mean,
made a
that's
brand
the
new
thing. Like, you
character,
could have
yeah.
made a brand new character. I mean, like that's either go all the way with that or make someone else, because like that's not cool. And honestly, politically, I understand why you wouldn't do that. Politically, that's just a whole ass mess, and that's probably smart not to make her like a jealous, not even a jealous ex, but just a jealous woman who attacks other women, apparently.
Yes.
But
Right. It
like,
plays into too many stereotypes.
exactly, and in a movie like this, you can't really afford that, because
No, you cannot.
you know how people put black people to much higher standards. Like, you slip up and the whole thing's bad.
Right.
And so, like, honestly, I understand why they wouldn't do that, but I don't think that it was. I don't think he just seems smarter than that. That's all. Coogler seems smarter than to name a character like that and then not follow through with that sort of
And what's
storyline.
funny is if you look
That feels
at
like a seed.
if you look at Aaron and I's favorite book right now, Space Wakandans, aka the current arc of Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates, it seems like someone at Disney kind of snuck into Coates' office and went, "Hey, so like Coogler kind of messed up with M'Baku and Nakia and like made them totally not what their comic book counterparts are supposed to be. Can you make some new characters in Space Wakandans that are like them but with different names?" I guess it's like
Okay,
Well,
whatever
I
you
see
say.
it. I
Am
see
I
your
right
point
though,
about
Aaron?
No, yeah.
I see your guys' point about of current events in the MCU maybe leading Nakia to take a more villainous turn. And if I think we've all seen Us. If you've seen Us, you know she can pull it off. Lupita can pull it off.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Now, speaking of M'Baku, that's a situation where I think the new version is better than the old version. Like, come on, we don't need to see a large muscular African in a white monkey suit. We just don't need to see
Okay,
it.
here's the thing.
Certain things are outdated. Okay, that's all.
Right.
I agree. I am okay with how he looked. I agree with the more tribal look. But where I was upset and where I like the movie draws a lot of contention for me is not only did you get rid of his name because you didn't want people to think of it as a racist thing, you said, "Hey, we're not going to call him Manape, and we're not going to put him in a monkey suit." Okay, cool, monkeys, that's fine. But
that's still.
But here's the thing: you had him wear a monkey mask as a part of the gorilla tribe, that are the villains of Wakanda. You had him like hoof like he like in that tribal way, like as the gorilla tribe would, and you had him act very tribal like a gorilla. You defeated the purpose of your own actions by saying, like, you could have just removed M'Baku from the entire movie, and then you made him a glorified sidekick when he's supposed to be one of the baddest people in Wakanda. Like, yeah, okay, my life dead. Oh, yeah, T'Challa spared me. But like, he literally was one of the main villains of a video game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Like, he had
really?
Yes. He like
we don't speak about that game.
We don't speak about that game because nanites are bad.
I played the first one.
We don't speak about the first one. We don't speak about two because nanites are bad.
Skip the second one, go straight to the third one.
Yes.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
There's some good things, but a lot of bad. But like, he's in the game, both in the pre-console version and the newer console, the 360 PS3 versions, as a villain, and he's there. So you didn't need to put him in a giant monkey suit, but not only did you take away his name, but you made him a glorified sidekick. Now, into what you guys are talking about of current events stuff, like messing with stuff, especially there's the line that M'Baku and Okoye have in Infinity War of, "This might be the end of Wakanda." I would love if everything that happened in Endgame and Infinity War sparked something in M'Baku to make him a villain again, and saying, "You have disgraced Wakanda too much, T'Challa, and I need to take control." That would be amazing.
That would be dope. But at the same time, I didn't quite see it how you saw it. I did see it as tribal, but I saw it tribal in a more engaging way. Like the introduction of M'Baku and his tribe was one of the most thrilling scenes in Black Panther to me.
It
That's
is.
And
true.
I didn't really see it as like, oh, he's still man-ape just without the costume. I seen it as that he's from a more conservative tribe of Wakanda who doesn't like the technology, and this is their way of going against it. That's kind of how I saw it. Now, I do like your idea of the events of Infinity War and Endgame turning him more villainous. That would be dope.
So tell me
That
why
would be better.
I
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was...
Mine is silly. Mine is silly. Yours is a real
Oh, okay,
comment. Go ahead.
okay. But don't forget it. Okay, I'll come back to you.
Yes.
I was, I was going to say that that would be good if they hadn't already set him up as a villain just to say psych in the movie, in the Black Panther movie. Because like honestly, and here is my problem, and it's not really a problem because it's just a tiny bit from like a writer's perspective. I thought that the movie was a little too busy. I thought that it had maybe too many antagonists and too many which isn't to say that I didn't like M'Baku's involvement, because I did. I loved it. I loved actually the entire thing, and this is coming as someone who didn't know he existed in the comics, so I had no idea about all that other stuff. But in terms of like his storyline and the role that he served and his tribe served in the movie, I thought that it was actually really well done, and him saving T'Challa at the end and coming back in with all of that was really good. I don't like that he was like regulated to a sidekick position. That was a little frustrating. That was really frustrating, and this has to do with like not this hasn't to do with the movie. The movie was fine. It was everything that came after that. Like Infinity War, Endgame, all of that.
Thank you for
that
coming, my friend. Of course, we must defend our country. Like, bro, really?
No. I was frustrated about that. I don't want to talk about that. Infinity War made me mad. So
now,
I'm not.
Granted, him rolling up, him like in that big Endgame shot where like he's like running alongside of Hulk, Thor, and Captain America. I was like, okay, M'Baku, I see you. I see you.
And just speaking to the actor personally, I just like the fact that it just bolstered his profile so much.
Same, I love him. He's great.
Right.
Aaron, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that I started the movie when we started talking, and literally when we started talking about man-ape, but not man-ape, like his part came up on the movie. So I just wanted to say that we have watched from the mountains.
I love that. and unfortunately, you know,
stood by for too long.
M'Baku inspired black people to start barking at white people. Please don't do
that.
You cannot talk.
There were so many videos of that. Oh my god, it drove me so nuts.
That's a good way to get yourself killed. Oh god.
Between that and calling people colonizers, like it's just oh my god.
Oh god. No.
Okay, so
you have watched in the schools. Go ahead.
That is really good.
Hey man, Aaron's a little amateur voice actor. I might have to pull him into some stuff soon. But no, to close out our first episode, like our preview episode here, is the conversation that a lot of people, and Marcus even made a crack about it earlier, that the women of the movie were right, and that the actual like weakest character, a lot of people say, is T'Challa, the Black Panther himself.
I agreed, but that's true. That's not entirely fair because it is his introductory movie, and while he seems like a very powerful and respectful figure from everyone else, you should show like his weak points as a character, especially in your first movie. Assuming we get another one, especially in your first movie, that actually makes sense, and I'm not mad about that. But you're correct. I think that was probably. T'Challa has a lot of room to grow. That's probably good, honestly, as a protagonist.
See,
so.
Definitely.
I know a lot of people are frustrated by the fact of you see him as this really confident and stoic person in Civil War, despite his father being just recently killed.
I was gonna say he's grieving,
and then you see him almost become not as confident in his own movie. And it was very, like, I know a lot of people will say that was polarizing, was seeing that transition of like swagger and like cracking that joke of Okoye and Black Widow of like, I would very much like to see this. Like it was one of those things that like where he seems so amazing, and that people will say he's lacking. Now, in my opinion, I don't think he's as bad as everyone says he is, because seeing that weakness, seeing that those mistakes of he accepted Killmonger's challenge, he like fought to the bitter end and then still made a comeback and told off literally the dead souls of every Black Panther and King and Queen before him that they were all wrong.
That was so good.
It was so powerful. So, like, when everyone's always like, oh, Bozeman is lacking and his accent sucks. Like, no. Like, he is amazing in that role. Like, even in the 2 seconds that man spoke in Endgame where he walks up to Clint and says, give it to me, he like radiates this power that is so. I wish Clint would have been like, he remembered my name, but that's
I don't want to talk about Clint. I don't want to talk about it. We're not gonna get into that. I will.
Oh goodness, that's a story for another time.
That might be a whole.
But no, yeah, like just to agree with you, James. Like I feel like yes, and that is what T'Challa, like his existence in the other films.
I was gonna say that other cartoons too. That's
like
he's just known for that character.
He's the one. Like when he comes in the room, there's silence. Yep. Like you everything stops when T'Challa walks in the room, and you pay attention to him, and you listen to and lay on every word that he says. And he's supposed to have that presence and that depth. And this movie is supposed to be that introduction. So he's a new king, and he's trying to figure it out. And he's being pressured on one end to follow tradition, traditionally. And then on the other hand, he's really thinking about, well, there's some really fucked up things that are going on in our history, the things that I didn't know about my father and what he's done, and the things that tradition has done to negatively impact people, and we need to change that, and so it's him figuring it out that is the journey of the movie. And I think that I definitely appreciated that, and I would say that if it's still like this in like the Black Panther 2, and he's still trying to kind of figure it out, like, no, we want T'Challa to have that assuredness of himself, and for him to have that presence that he had in Civil War and Endgame, for him to say like, hey, T'Challa's in the room, what's good.
Okay.
Well, I think Chadwick Boseman, he's doing a great job as Black Panther T'Challa. I think he's kind of being portrayed as like your typical reluctant king. He was thrust into the role while he's still processing some of the things that's going on in his life. Then he's just hit with this crazy challenge right in the first couple of days, weeks, months of him on the throne, and that's how he's reacting to it. Yeah. But I think what strengthens the people's arguments criticizing him is how the next MCU movie just shitted on everything Wakanda Forever. Like,
oh my god!
I think because I think Disney didn't have a lot of faith. I know Mary has said this a lot too. Disney didn't have a lot of
like that. Was added to have all that more Wakanda stuff because of how well
they did not think it was going to be the success that it was.
A poster. They put that woman back in that suit and gave her a poster because of how well the movie did. Okoye didn't have a poster. Chadwick had a poster, and that was it. Like
right. Now, and then he kind of got ragdolled a lot at the end of that movie when he's supposed to be leading the Avengers against Thanos, and he's getting tossed like a rag doll. So I don't think, and then he gets, dusted in the blip.
That's the stupidest thing. Forever. And I think it's not even that. I mean, like it is that, like it's everything, but like the fairy, like it's giving, and I have the same issue with, because they did the same thing with Thor, because Ragnarok was so monumentally amazing, and they snatched all of that away. Same fucking thing. Excuse my French. same thing. Just the fact that like they give you like this beautiful jewel of representation and culture and something that you've been dangling over our heads for so long, and then snatch it away like that. That is so upsetting. That more than anything about that movie was upsetting. I hated it. I hated every second of it. Endgame did not make up for it. I'm still talking about it.
Now the thing is, a lot of people say like I agree with you guys. I do as corny as the Ibom Bay chant is, like that fills you with something. Like
that was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
And I'll slightly disagree because I do think Endgame made up a little bit because when he took that gauntlet, there was nobody stopping him.
Yes,
he was running around that battlefield. He was running around that battlefield like he was damn Barry.
That's fair. And
like
Wakanda
he was damn
rebuilt.
Barry Sanders.
And okay, I see that football reference.
And then I kind of look to what you were saying about Thor. I kind of compare their arcs a little bit because Thor didn't hit his stride until his third movie. So I think like was said earlier, Black
Thor
Panther
was a dumbass
T'Challa,
though. I mean. He's the dude bro of the MCU. He's the dude bro of the MCU. He's allowed to be. He's allowed to be.
Yeah. Right. I love Thor. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth is awesome in that role. I hope he never stops playing him. Seems like he wants to play him forever too.
We got somebody coming in
got
here
some
in a minute.
Bad news for you, pal.
He ain't gonna be worthy here in a minute.
Jane.
Right.
Jane.
Miss Jane Foster about to come in and start swinging that hammer.
I literally can't believe that happened. I'm so excited.
I have a feeling, and not because I'm against it, because I'm for it. I want to see it happen, but I don't think she's going to take on the role going forward.
I like they're at least going to give her, if not like the end of the movie and like Avengers 5 or 6, whatever. Because Kevin Feige said after Comic-Con that the next Avengers project will be some people we've already seen and some people we haven't seen. So I definitely feel like we're going to have sort of an all new, all different Avengers the comic kind of feel. Like even though Tony's dead, we're going to have like Sam Wilson, Jane Foster, possibly Riri. Like we're going to have that kind of lineup of the future of the Marvel franchise being more diverse.
I mean, honestly, I don't want to sound like a buzzkill. I don't even think that. I think it might be just for this movie, and maybe they just have her stay on Earth, and then he goes to space with the Guardians. But because it just doesn't make sense to me. You threw him through the ringer for Infinity War and Endgame just to make him unworthy when he fought that hard to be worthy again in Endgame. That it's gonna take a lot. It's a lot. It's like the logic's not making sense.
I have issues with that, but that's a mental health thing, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah, and like honestly,
is Natalie Portman really going to just be Thor for the rest of do you really believe that she's going
I see
to
her doing one, and like also to your credit about like the issues of story like story banging against one another. It's very obvious that Taika Waititi and the Russo brothers are not on the same page because literally Thor Ragnarok goes, "What are you, the god of thunder or the god of hammers?" Well,
oh my god!
His power comes from his hammer. The whole point of Thor is that whoever wields the hammer has the power of Thor. Yada yada. But then Infinity War comes in and goes, "Hey, Taika, he kind of needs a hammer. We're gonna give him back the hammer." And then Endgame comes in and goes, "Hey, we're gonna give him 2 hammers because fuck you, Taika."
I love it too.
I am so mad.
Well, I think they honored Taika in that movie too because they still kept some of Thor's wit and humor, even though a lot of the humor came from, for lack of a better term, fat shaming him and making fun of his depression, which I thought was terrible. That was the worst part of the movie to me.
Fucking awful.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that in the theater, and the whole theater like busted up laughing at that, and I'm sitting here like the most uncomfortable. Yeah.
Like, literally, the only time I laughed at any of those jokes was when Don Cheadle made a Funyun joke. That was the only time. That, like, every other time I'm like, why are you doing this to Thor?
I like the Lebowski joke. That was it, because that was... I'm sorry, I kind of chuckled at that right there. But other than that, everything else was kind of like... Everything else was kind of like, really? Really? Like,
I was upset. I think more than anything, I was upset about the idea that because he was depressed, he was unworthy. That was
dumb.
Right.
That was... not cool, and I have my issues, and I'll go on about Endgame forever.
We might have to dissect that one day.
I'm gonna fight every last one of y'all. Okay, it's fine.
But no, so we this has been a really good start, y'all. I am really looking forward to seeing what happens. Our first episode is like, I believe, if I'm incorrect, we either gonna start next week or the week of the 8th. We are going to be live on Twitch every Thursday talking about what we care about, whether it be specific black culture things or just black nerds giving their opinion on things, like we just did for Endgame a little bit there. It is going to be awesome. And next episode, we will have our other co-host, Travis Tucker. And, like, not every episode will be all 5 of us. There will be episodes where it's just me, Marcus, and Aaron, or me, Jasmine, and Aaron, or me, Jasmine, and Marcus, or Travis will be here, too. There will be a revolving roster. Like, that's why there's so many of us. And there will be sometimes there will be guests from other websites. There will be sometimes we'll try to bring in creators from different comic books to possibly talk to different voice actors. Possibly a Power Ranger. You never know.
Don't tease me, James.
Like that one was specifically for Jasmine. But no, we want this to be something that can be a beacon in the black nerd community, and that's what we aim to do. So for closing of this episode, what are some things that you guys are looking forward to? What is your mission with this podcast? Marcus, why don't you start us off?
For me, I think it's just giving Black folks who are into, the quote unquote nerd culture, another platform to express their opinions. I want it to be something where we're not just talking about comics and movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, what have you, but we're giving our opinion on stuff that people don't go to us for. Like, for example, Zombieland 2 trailer came out today. How do we feel?
Oh my god!
I'm so excited.
How do we feel as Black folks looking at that movie? From our perspective, things like that. And not just us talking about quote unquote black stuff, even though everything could use a little more black in it, for lack of a better term.
Yes. All right.
Correct.
Jasmine, what are you thinking in regards to this podcast? I know you have some episodes lined up that you are excited about.
I am very excited. I think the biggest thing is that I haven't really felt like free to nerd out about stuff like my whole life. I kind of always kept a cap on that. I always kept a lid on that, and I think that it's really nice to be around other people who can talk about this sort of thing and let me talk about it and go on and on and on forever, because I haven't had that experience, and it's very freeing. It's very nice, and also I feel like I can bring a perspective to the table, not just being woman-like, but also just from my background as a writer and an aspiring filmmaker and stuff like that is also, I feel like that's something I can bring to the table.
Yeah, no, like let's not act like Jasmine is a token. Like, she came in here like with the pitch of, I want to take a baseball bat to Tolkien. Like, that was what sold me on her being a part of this. Like, that is what made me go, okay, I need you on this.
Jazz was going to be quarterback in the show on multiple occasions.
Most definitely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wally West, anyone?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that Wally West race change?
I don't want to talk about anything Wally West. I will.
Wallace? You talking about Wallace?
Oh god.
What you talking about, Wallace?
Oh god. See, we're already talking about future episodes. We already got so many things planned. But
I'll go on. Sure, I'll quarterback that one.
But Aaron, what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm just very excited for the space. Also, maybe give folks an opportunity to explore some things that we're talking about, and maybe pick up something that or watch something that they maybe wouldn't have, because the quote unquote these are not black things. Like, we can definitely be interested in whatever we like, whether it be black characters or non-black characters, and just kind of encouraging people to just geek out, make it happen, that this culture is for all of us. And as well, I want to just have good conversations with folks that know what the hell they're talking about, and can maybe shine some light on some things that maybe I didn't know about, or make me think about my perspectives and whatnot. So I'm down for the cause and happy to be here.
All right.
Same.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning into this first episode. I want to thank my team here. This has been something that has been near and dear to my heart, that I wanted to get out there for a long time. Growing up, like I said, first comic I had ever written with a black character was Black Lightning, and then almost 2 or 3 years ago, seeing that first trailer with Vertigo by Raphael Lake.
Oh god, that was so exciting.
In the trailer, and you just see one of your favorite characters come to life. It's so empowering, and seeing what other characters just like it was groundbreaking in the 90s, in the early 2000s, seeing black characters in Final Fantasy video games. We're finally getting to a point where black characters aren't just stereotypes with big lips in anime, and they're actually badasses. Like, that's phenomenal. We have gone so far, and these are things that we are going to talk about as the show progresses. So thank you so much for tuning in. Like we said at the top of the hour, please follow this podcast on Twitter at Blerd Grounds. Don't forget to check out the website oncomicsground.com with hyphens between the words, where we talk about all of our opinions on comic books every weekday, whether it be reviews, whether it be opinion pieces, whether it be some news here and there. We talk about that stuff. Follow the website on Twitter and Instagram at oncomicsground. Hopefully, as we get more things going, we might even start the Blerd Grounds Instagram if it starts taking off the way we want to. So, and hopefully soon, as things work out, as we grow, as we can get things going, we will like to move this to iTunes, to SoundCloud, to Stitcher Radio, and Spotify. That way, wherever you go, you can hear this podcast. But that's going to take some time. So please, check out this video on YouTube. Check out the podcast weekly on twitch.tv/oncomicsground. That way you can hear and check out this podcast. We will catch you guys next time. Any closing thoughts before we peace out?
I would like to quarterback an episode entitled Piccolo is Black.
Oh, God.
All right.
Okay. We might have to pull that off, because that's been a theory of mine for a while. All right. Any other closing statements before we go?
I got nothing.
I got nothing. I'm good.
All right. We will catch you folks next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace out.